honestly, I think it's motivation all the time. All the time. But that's the big problem with this business is, and we touched on it before you brought it up, that some people aren't cut out to be independent contractors. And I think that's probably the largest portion that gets overlooked with students coming to the school.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're an instructor at the school. You've seen people, just as many as I have, that want to come in and all they tell you is, I like houses, or the market's really good, I want to be an agent. And you can see in their schoolwork that there's no motivation.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know whether it started in like elementary school or whatever. I mean, I know at least with people my age, the whole self-esteem thing, and I don't want to poo-poo self-esteem. It's important to have self-esteem, but they think because they can self-esteem themselves into anything.
Yeah.
I feel good about myself, so I can do this. But, I feel good about pizza. I'm not going to wake up and be a pizza tomorrow.
Well, you got your participation awards. And unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that.
There's a lot of really nice people that are terrible salespeople and have just no motivation at all.
There's a lot that come through the school that I would like to help beyond just the school, because they do have, a story of no income, but then you watch them at the school and they don't do the homework, they don't study, and it becomes a point. At what point is it, like you said, what was that? A hand?
It becomes a difference between a hand up and a hand out.
Yeah, because ultimately they're going to be responsible for their own career.
Yeah.
So I try and help them as much as I can, but at some point, I told the one, you actually have to do the work.
Yeah.
I can't do it all for you. And that's the single biggest problem that's overlooked in this business is the high degree of motivation.
Well, and I think we talked about that on the radio show 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were talking about, I don't think motivation is a learned thing. I think you either have motivation or you don't.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you can, I guess, through successes, you can become more motivated, but, there isn't anything that you are going to personally do for someone that is unmotivated to magically, now I'm motivated.
Well, I teach a class on motivation, and I start out with, you can have motivation, you can lose motivation, you can want it, it can be taken from you, but ultimately the only way to get it is you. Now, there are several ways to get motivation, I think, and I don't know if I've told you the story. I've told Collin. I left a corporate job, was fired from a corporate job through a corporate acquisition. We got let go, which is a whole nother story we can talk about some other time. But I had a wife, 2 children, 3 children, a house, and a real estate license, and my motivation simply was fear.
Well, yeah.
That was I'll be honest with you, when I first started, my biggest motivation was I couldn't feed my family. So every morning, the first thing I did was lead generation activities, only because I was so afraid of not providing for my family. And what's the old, was it Mark Twain said, if you eat a frog in the morning, if you eat a frog the first thing in the morning, the rest of the day is pretty good. So the very first thing I always used to do was make phone calls, and that was back before we had the internet was here, but it wasn't like we use it now.
Yeah.
So I made 5 or 10 phone calls. Actually, I made as many phone calls until I could get 1 or 2 listing appointments or buyers. Now, sometimes that was by 10, sometimes it was noon. There were days I didn't get any at all. So my motivation was fear.
But I will tell you, I think you have, you are wired where you can accept motivation. There are people that look at that situation and get motivated and know they have to provide for their family. And then there's people that look at that situation and are so downtrodden that they go the complete opposite direction because they don't have the motivation to push them forward to find a way. They just throw their hands up and wait for someone to find a way for them.
Well, I think I could have gotten the job, but I mean, I was upper level management at a Fortune 50 company. And I was, at that time, 75 grand a year. So, I drove limos at night for the first year. I parked cars at a valet on third shift for 6 months. But ultimately, I knew there was no job that I was going to go get that could replace 75 grand.
Not overnight.
Not overnight, but the other problem was I didn't want to relocate. You know, I was 40 years old at that time. Family here, kids in school. So that severely hampered. I could have went back into the nuclear field at another state and pulled the family up and moved, but that was not a choice. So that's why I literally remember making the decision that this has to work. And I remember the video I did, My Biggest Sin in Real Estate. And then in 08, it happened again. And I actually thought about going back into the job market. At that time, I had been out almost 10 years. And now I was 50. I was 48. And nobody wanted to hire an old guy. Nobody wanted to hire me at the salary I was making in real estate. And the technology had advanced in that decade in the nuclear field so much that I was behind the 8 ball. And I remember in 2 separate occasions where I literally sat down and said, this has to work. And that was my motivation was, you hear people all the time, well, losing's not an option. I kind of agree with that. But you have to make that decision.
You do.
You have to make that decision that losing's not an option. And for me, it wasn't, because losing to me was complete loss. At that time now, I had, in 08, I had 6 kids and a house. So in 08, I went through that whole thing again about this has to work, and I doubled down on everything I was doing, and I made it through 08, 09, and came out the other side actually better and made as much money in those months or those years as I did before. So same thing's going on now.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to lose 24 to 27% of our licensed agent. It's just a trend that happens. I've seen it before. I'm going to see it again. But the other 70% needs to stay motivated. And the other problem with motivation is you can get it fairly simple, I think. But the hard part is when someone tries to take it from you, trying to keep motivation. That's harder.
Well, yeah.
Like you said, when people continually tell you no, 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 no for 15 phone calls in a row, how do you still stay motivated that next morning going, okay, I got to do 15 more to get today?
Oh, and I think that comes down to, the old adage of you take on the people that you surround yourself with. If you're with conversations I have with my daughter, the friends that you choose to be with determine a whole lot of what's going into your psyche at that point.
Yeah.
And, in sales, you've got to be used to people telling you no, because you're going to get no's. The whole thing where don't take no for an answer. You're going to get no for an answer.
Yeah.
But what the reality is, you got to go find someone else that isn't going to give you no.
Yep.
You don't keep beating your head against the wall with that same thing. And, getting that motivation is about being surrounded the rest of the time with people that fill that bucket for you and keep you wanting to push for more and keep rooting you on. That helps a lot. But you're exactly right. motivation is found in yourself.
Yeah.
Just like happiness is found in yourself. If you rely on other people to create that for you, the success ratio is not very good. I mean, I'm not saying it's never happened in the history of time where you can put it on this person to make you happy and this person to motivate you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work.
No,
like finding it in yourself.
Yeah. Well, Corvettes make me happy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to keep beating this dead horse because it is probably, as the director of Real University and the managing broker for the Modglin Group, that is probably the number one reason people drop out, is they lose motivation. And I think they start with it, but good point. What's the old saying about you are an amalgamation of your 5 closest friends?
Yeah.
I will tell you now, there are guys that I thought I was good friends with 20 years ago that I haven't seen in 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's not that I intentionally disassociated with them. It's just that they did not want to grow. Hell, I know a guy that I was a bouncer in a bar with in the mid-'80s, and we're 40 years later, he still is a bouncer in a bar. You know, so I haven't seen Fred in 22 years.
And that's the same. My wife and I had that conversation 2 or 3 days ago, talking about, people that we were really close with, but seasons change, motivations change, priorities change. I feel like she and I mean, we started out in the music world, and that's a vow of poverty to an extent. To be a band director or a guard instructor or anything
Pastor,
else.
band director.
Well, I mean, it just is.
Yeah.
And when you focus on other things become more important to you, like my daughter, my family, providing, being able to be in a position where I can think about the future and what I want to do and where I want to go. For lack of a better terminology, you grow up. It's not really growing up as much as it is you
Maturing.
Evolve. You mature into different things. And it isn't about, harboring ill will towards people that you used to be friends with. You just go in different directions.
Yeah.
And the ties that bound you together aren't the ties that bind anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to Fred via Facebook, but like you said, he is now not in the same, and I'm not better than him. I'm not saying that at all.
No.
It's different seasons, to use your word. So if you're out there listening, here's what I would suggest to maintain motivation is maintain friendships with the people that also have to maintain motivation.
Yeah.
Almost like a support group. Everybody that hangs out here in the Cigar Club of Indiana with us virtually is self-employed.
Yeah.
To some extent. Almost all of them. I mean, we've got attorneys, we've got business owners, we've got lighting company owners. So the good thing is, while this group seems like it's, you guys just get together and smoke cigars. No, we're also a big support group for each other. What'd you do in business today? How'd you do? What are you doing to grow? Where are you marketing? So all of that, all these people now are that support group that when you get down, it's always good to talk to one of these guys that are like, hey, I went through that. Here's what I did.
And I don't think there's a single person within that group that tries to tear anyone down. I mean, they try to uplift. They try to be there for them with the successes and root them on. And when things aren't working well, try to help them find a way to reinvent who they are to make it work well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Well, that's probably going to be the second thing that you should think about is get rid of naysayers.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you have to not be friends with them. I mean, you and I know a guy right now that's in a bad point in his life that's very not motivated, Still a friend of mine.
Absolutely.
We go on vacation with him.
Yeah.
But he is not probably in that main circle of people that I talk to on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 6 to 9 people I talk to on a daily basis, and every one of us are guiding a business towards success. So I think that helps. So the second thing would be is don't hang out or don't listen to motivation stealers. And there's plenty of them.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many people I've talked to in the last week that have said, "Oh, real estate's going bad. What are you going to do?" Or are you going to do something else? Or
wait a minute, there's a changing in life.
Yeah,
shocking. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, guys. It's different, and to me, that's motivation in and of itself. I know that the playing field is going to change. Now I'm motivated to find out how to adapt to be able to play the game on the new field.
When I went into basic training into the Army, one of our neighbors I grew up beside was a friend of my father, who was lifelong career, retired 30 years in the military. And he gave me the best advice, and I still remember it to this day. He was talking about basic training, but it really applies to everything. He said, if you understand that basic training is a game, don't let them beat you at the game.
Yeah.
And he was right. It was all yelling and screaming and barking, trying to impose will and get you shaped up to physically and mentally, but it was just a game. And I wasn't going to let them beat me. If they said didn't do 10 push-ups, I did 10 push-ups. And now, like you said, if the market changes, I don't cry about it. I just learn a new way to do the business, and I'm not going to let the change beat me. I didn't in 08, didn't in 16, and we're not going to do it now.
No.
I mean, we're on track to do the same amount of business that we did last year in the Modglin group. So we're going to be close to closing about $90 million. We did 93 last year. So we're, within 1/3% of the same number. So it's not a matter of being beat. It's just a matter of changing the rules.
Adapting.
Yeah, adapting to new rules, and don't let them beat you at it. If half the buyers aren't buying, just work twice as hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds simple, and it really is simple. It's not that hard. If you used to call 5 people, now call 10.
Well, and this can actually apply to so many different things.
Yeah.
Conversation I had with my daughter and some of her friends and students I had while I was teaching.
Your kids still talk to you?
Yeah, well, mostly when she wants to get in my wallet.
Yeah.
But what I've tried to explain to them
when I see one of the kids call, that's how I answer.
Yeah.
How much
what
do you
need?
want?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Like yesterday, I got a text message. How's your day going? Okay, how much is this going to cost me? But what I figured out and tried to instill in my students when I was still a classroom teacher is school is a game. There are things that you have to learn at school.
Yeah.
But the reality is the game is to learn how to learn.
Yeah.
That is all it is. You have to learn how to learn. You have to learn how to adapt. You have to learn how to talk to all different types of people from all different types of backgrounds.
Yep.
That is what school is about, and you learn some other things on top of it. But those are the things that drive you as you get older. So if you're, a kid stuck listening to this with your parents, take that for what it's worth. What you are learning now, you're right. You probably are not going to do trigonometry every day of your life unless you're a mathematician or you're doing something else. But you will be doing problem solving every day of your life. How am I going to balance this budget for my household? How am I going to do all of that you are going to have to learn and do forever. So there are positives that you pick up beyond just the academics.
What do they call it? Critical thinking?
Yes.
And that's what I tell the kids. like you're saying, it doesn't matter the problem. It's the learning the method to solve the problem.
Yep.
And that's all real estate really is every time the buyer has an issue or your seller has an issue, you don't go, oh, well, and give up.
No.
You find a way around it by solving a problem.
And generally that comes through communication.
Yeah.
Being able to talk to people, not pulling back or not jumping down people's throat, but having a conversation. You can work out so many issues just by doing that.
But one of the things you mentioned is hearing no. And I believe the human psyche wants to be accepted.
Yes.
And when people hear no, they feel like, oh, well, it's rejection and that person doesn't like me. NAR studies will show you that 70% of the people that bought a house within the last year can't name the agent, and 90% can't name the company. So it's not like they're saying no to Raymond. And I tell my agents, they're saying no to the concept of buying a house.
Absolutely.
No one's ever going to be walking in the mall and point at you and go, oh, there's that guy that tried to sell me a house, and laugh. No, they probably don't remember who you were the second you hang up the phone.
As a human, we take things so personally.
Yeah.
Not everything is personal.
Yeah. That's what I said. They're saying no to the concept of buying a home. They're not saying no to Raymond. And no one's ever going to say that. I mean, I have never in 21 years heard somebody call me out and go, oh, you tried to sell me a house last year. Yeah, wah.
No.
It's not that. So don't take it personal. And that's one way to keep motivation is don't take it personal. If you're, and that's true with any sales. If you call and want to sell them a water softener and they say no, it's not you, dude.
No.
It's the concept of buying a water softener. Now, the funny thing is, I know for a fact I've dealt with people that have become clients of mine that had told me no previously, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, because things changed in their life. And then I talked to them again, and they're like, oh, yeah, I think I'm ready to sell now. So that only goes to prove it's not you.
No.
It was the concept when I asked them the first time, they were like, no, not interested. Okay. And then later, like, oh, now I am interested.
Well, here's a real world example. Hey, do you want to sell your house? No, knowing full well my wife doesn't want to. If 2 days later my wife says, hey, this is a good idea, oh, okay, now magically we're all okay again. So, there's all kinds of dynamics.
Apparently my wife has changed my mind.
My wife has changed my mind and we now say yes. It happens.
I did that the other day. We were at dinner, and the guy's like, what would you like? I asked Kelly, I don't know, what do I want? Tell me what I want to eat.
See, and there's motivation in that. That's called survival. I'm motivated to not die tonight. Yeah. I will do what I'm told.
We don't care.
We don't.
So, yeah, staying motivated is tough. Getting motivated, I think, is easier. Staying motivated is the tough part. And like I said, I think one of the biggest thing is surrounding yourself. Go to other sales meetings. Go to BNI groups. Go to any of those kind of groups where there are those type of people. And when I say type, I mean motivated people.
Yes.
I mean, they're all motivated to sell or get involved with networking, or they wouldn't be there. That's a good place to start with motivation.
And I will tell you, I don't always think the best place to start is like watching a video from a guy that I made $6 million last year doing, because that, to me, that does the exact opposite.
Yeah.
That doesn't motivate me. It makes me feel like a big, floating excrement. I'm like, well, clearly this guy's got it figured out and I'm worthless. So that takes away. Go somewhere where you're going to be motivated. Yeah. Don't go somewhere where it's like self-inflicted, beatdown session. Don't do that. Go somewhere where because what motivates you.
Yeah.
Find somewhere where you're going to be motivated.
I was golfing the other day with the golf pro at Hillview.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, well, I'm going to try this shot. Watched it on a video, and he's like, oh, Lord, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Quit watching golf videos. He said, because I'll show you how to shoot that shot if you want, but don't watch videos. So
after watching our video.
So after watching our video, turn it up. No, don't turn it off. Yeah.
Be you, be true to you. Because that's the other thing. You don't try to fake motivation by being something you aren't.
Hey.
Know who you are. And be okay with who you are.
It's funny. That's one of the things I told the kids. And it's amazing how in high school you want to be liked and you want to fit in. And now you look back at it and go, if you were different, that's almost fitting in to some extent because you now become the unique person. And I guess I don't know how to say that, but like now I meant all the guys I know drive really nice cars. I drive a little Renegade Jeep.
Yeah.
People give me flack for it. But I have owned that and accepted that as being the unique thing with the guys that's got the Lambo that we know and the BMWs and all that. And they pull up and I've got my little Jeep and like, oh, you got a Jeep. I'm like, yeah, cost a third of what yours did and gets twice the gas mileage.
And you're not worried about when you're making a payment or anything.
I don't have a payment on it. So sometimes being, like I said, being true to yourself, if you are a little different, that is not a deal killer.
No.
Just to embrace it as part of you and go, yeah.
In fact, if you're doing sales, I will tell you that being you, you're going to be more successful than if you're trying to emulate someone else.
Oh.
Because people pick up on that.
What was the Tommy Boy thing about the warranty?
Yeah, guaranteed piece of poo. Be you, be true to yourself, because that's the only way to continue to stay motivated.
Well, the weird thing is, of all the things that you think make you different, probably if you look around, there are a lot of other people that have that same quality.
Well, I think we both talked about, we watch the news, we hear about things. Everyone harps on so many things that these people are different from these people. And the reality is they're harping 100% of the time on about 2% that makes them different.
Yeah.
I would say 98% of the people, at least in our country, want the same thing for their families that everyone wants. They want them to be safe.
Yeah.
They want them to get a decent education. They want them to be successful, and they don't want them to have to worry about things.
Yeah.
And if we would all just agree to that, life would be easier too.
Instead of arguing over the difference, let's
talk about what actually.
We all want the market to go up. Maybe
the sane ones.
There are some, I guess, that don't. But I guess you're right, and that's true with sales. If you've got a unique factor about you that you like Dungeons and Dragons or something, there was a group in high school I played with Dungeons and Dragons. We used to catch crap all the time from some of the other people. But you know what? Now I look back and think, well, that made us special in my mind. And those 3 or 4 guys, I actually still talk to. About the only ones I still talk to from my high school. So being yourself is better than being unique. I don't know.
Always.
I don't know how we got to that from motivation.
Well, because to pull it back to the motivation thing, I think it's difficult to maintain motivation if you are trying to motivate yourself by being something you aren't.
Yeah.
You run out of energy for it.
Well, yeah, and that's true. I know that I'm not a good writer. I'm a numbers guy.
Yep.
So I have never blogged, when blogging was cool.
Yeah.
I don't write articles. I do mainly this kind of conversation. Yeah. I'm good at conversing.
Yes.
So I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of as you recall, stand-up comedy, because that communication to me was always better. So knowing that strength made me more motivated in teaching
Yes.
and talking to people. And the cool thing is, I think I'm pretty much a chameleon. No matter where I'm at with a group, I can talk sports, and I know enough about a little about enough that I can get by in a cocktail party at any time. Sports or politics, or I don't know anything about medicine, so let that go. But the ability to be comfortable will motivate you.
Yeah.
And
because it calms you.
Yeah.
Unless
find the group that find a similar group. I joke with people, I said, I'll bet you out there somewhere there's a group of left-handed real estate professionals that meet.
Yeah.
Because somebody says, oh, I'm different because I'm left-handed. Dude, there's 13% of the population that you haven't talked to that have the same thoughts and motivations and questions that you would have. There's new agents, there's lakefront property agents, there's high-end people that do high-end, there's commercial agents, and just find a group. And even if you have to make a group, call 4 or 5 other people and say, let's sit down and I want to talk to you about how you're doing business. And I guarantee that person on that side is going to go, holy shit, there's someone else that's doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to them.
Yeah.
So that will motivate you way more than listening to your neighbors like, oh, you shouldn't be in real estate. Real estate's going down, it's dying. You're never going to make any money in that.
And then 6 weeks later, they're moving.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Nobody's selling their house but me.
But I'm different. Yeah. So...
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all there is to it.
Yeah. Lunchtime?
Yeah, time to chow. Have
Bye.
a good one.